My name is Sumner Thompson. I'm a World War II and Korean veteran. Believe it or not, I always wanted to be in the service. I was in the Maine State Guard when I was 16. World War II came along. My three brothers, one of my sisters, all entered the armed forces before I did. The first thing you do is you go through boot camp, maybe 7 weeks, something like that. There's thousands of guys there. After that, we went through amphib training in the LCVPs. We picked up a ship, the USS Freestone, and it was the middle of the night. We were tired and hungry. I'd seen pictures of ships, but I'd never seen a real ship. Eventually, we were assigned to our quarters on the board ship. My shack was 6 racks up, and there was a red light right in front of me and a blower. Well, you take coming from a quiet family environment, then going into a ship like that, with all that noise and commotion. And 3 days, didn't bother me at all. Sounded like nothing to it. Eventually became a boat radio man. And whenever the boats went out, I went with them with my transceiver. We ferried the Marines and soldiers to their next destination. And of course, that was a kind of a ticklish situation, because nobody wants to put these guys ashore because you know what's going to happen to them. We was underway most all the time, ferrying troops, Marines and soldiers here and there and everywhere. The next big thing coming up was the invasion of Okinawa. So we started out from Manila, 2 columns of ships. And I'm going to tell you, if you could go up in a mast in a crow's nest and look back both ways, you could not see either end. There were so many ships. There were 2 columns. Of course, the Japanese come in with their nasties, their suicide. And I was standing on deck looking outside one day, and I looked towards the other row of ships. There's a Japanese Betty going right along between us. I said, what the? And so I watched it, went in a drink. But most of the time they were trying to get you. These 2 columns are headed for the beach in Okinawa. They're going regardless. Eventually, we got to our assigned area. It was utter confusion. There were so many ships, so many landing crafts, so much of everything, anti-aircraft fire, bombs and everything. I don't know how anybody did everything. Everything was plugged. There were so many supplies, so many boats. You couldn't do anything. So there was, I think, four or five in the boat crew. Can't go anywhere, can't do anything, can't get back to the ship because you got a full load. So he says, we'll go ashore with the troops. So we had Thompsons, we had Garands, we had 45 ACP, and they gave us dynamite, and you could light those and drop those over the side for the swimmers. And of course, anti-aircraft fire and everything was going like crazy, and you could hear stuff hitting on the ground. And we figured, man, this is kind of serious business. You know, even so you're young and foolish, you don't care, but this stuff, what goes up comes down. And so somebody says, now it's starting to get dark. I said, what are we going to do? I said, well, there's a cave over there. So we all went over the cave. Somebody lit a lighter, and we see these big, now this is the island of Okinawa, which we captured. See these big jugs made of clay or whatever it was, and it was a burial area for the Okinawans. So somebody climbed up a little bit, looked down in, and of course there's a body down there. And there's a whole big cave, because then the fleas. We got the fleas. I was in the Navy, and I got the fleas 3 or 4 times, because sometimes we had to sleep on the beach or some other ungodly place. So that night we slept in that cave, and it was the fleas. Of course, what we did, we took them back to the ship. You know, eventually the war got over, and we was cranking up for the invasion of Japan. And I'm telling you, I read the war plan, the first rendition of the plan, and there'd been a slaughter. They figured everybody in Japan, every man, woman, and child was trained to inflict serious bodily injury on anybody who came ashore. And my brothers were they were in Europe. They were getting ready to be shipped to the Pacific to invade Japan. So people may have the various and sundry thoughts about the A-bomb, but that saved millions. I don't know, who knows? After they dropped the bomb, they sent in the occupation troops, and we was kind of, we're still young and interested, kind of interested in what's happening. The harbor was full of sunken ships. So the first live Japanese I saw was the harbor master or something like that, and he piloted us through the sunken ships like that until we got to a dock. And I see this little guy in a uniform, and he looked scared. Here were these overgrown Americans coming in. We unloaded the troops and supplies. Now, the first thing we want to do, we want to get ashore. So we didn't know anything about radiation. So they let us off, and we went off in our dungarees, just like you see in the pictures. Flat as a pancake, and it was really, because we're not used to this stuff. Young Americans, kids like, we have a lot to absorb. And we're looking to see all the people horribly burned and starving. And so the 3 or 4 of us tilly-bopping around. This little Japanese kid came up. He started to follow us. I says, what's that kid want? That kid, he doesn't understand English. So I had a candy bomb in my pocket. I said, you suppose the kid, because he's all scabby looking, I said, suppose the kid's hungry? So I took it out, I gave it to the kid, and he looked at it, and he didn't know what to do with it. So I took the paper off, and I took a bite and ate it, and gave it to him. Man, that disappeared just as quick as anything. Then to walk it over, went into what they call magic carpet, and that was bringing home the troops that were eligible to come home after walking over. So they assigned our ship as one of them to bring home these troops. They've been over there 2 or 3, 4 years there. And I'm telling you, these soldiers, all they want to do is get off that ship and go ashore and have fun and frolic or something. And the streets was teeming with GIs. There was in every bar room, every bowling alley, every restaurant, every movie theater. So eventually, my tour of duty on the Freestone was over. I went back to Boston, and I got discharged out of Boston.